first instrument I ever tried to play was the trumpet, so naturally Dizzy Gillespie was an absolute idol. In fact, supernatural. I never thought a mere human could play so fast, so beautifully, and so faultlessly. So imagine my state of delight when, in 1965, about 10 years after I blew my first rasp on a trumpet, I was sitting in a small dressing room in the Esquire show bar in Montreal with Dizzy himself. He was making his annual Montreal appearance with his band, and I had been determined to interview him. Mind you, I almost blew it with my first question. Do you consider yourself a musician or an entertainer? It was not only thoughtless, but insulting. This was Dizzy Gillespie, one of the architects and founders of bebop, and arguably one of the most influential musicians of the 20th century. You can hear that he was taken aback by the question, and even got a little bit defensive about his reputation. Thankfully, he didn't take offense, and the rest of the interview was chatty and relaxed. It ends sort of abruptly because he had to go on stage to do what he did with seemingly effortless virtuosity: play the trumpet. Ladies and gentlemen, Dizzy Gillespie.
Mr. Gillespie, welcome to Montreal.
Thank you very much.
How's your French?
Very bad.
I've always wanted to ask you whether you think of yourself as a musician or an entertainer.
Well, you mean, do I think of myself as a musician or an entertainer? Well, I think both of them are intertwined. There shouldn't be any question about my musicianship because it is documented from records.
Well, let me put it this way. Do you think of yourself first as a musician or first as an entertainer? This kind of harks back to the argument whether, like Miles Davis, who says, my music speaks for me and I'm a musician and that is that, or you get the other extreme of Louis Armstrong. Where do you fall between these two extremes?
Well, I'm not an extremist in any terms. As I said before, it is mine. There's no question about my musicianship as a creator, as a performer, and I don't think there's any question about my entertainment ability. I try to entertain. I think that music, any art form that you cater to people who come to see you, you must entertain them. Now, as Mr. Davis, I don't want to have any argument about what he thinks. What he thinks is his own personal business, and he seems to be doing very well with what he's doing personally himself. But as for me, I think that music can be entertaining, and when I can think that it can be entertaining and yet don't take anything away from the music. I wouldn't jeopardize the music for the sake of entertainment.
Can you play for an audience and for yourself at the same time?
It's possible, I think. Well, you don't know whether you are or not. All you have to do is think. The best you can do is play what you feel and hope that it reaches them.
Well, if you find, and you probably, after this many years playing to audiences, you find that you're losing an audience and you feel the audience is not quite with you, what do you do?
What if you feel that the audience is not with you? Just go and do your best and forget it.
Montreal's jazz scene, that is the club scene, is practically dead. How is it in the, say, the rest of the U.S., in New York? What's the scene like in New York now?
Clubs are closing up all the time, and new ones are opening up all the time, so I think it balances out. Where a club like Birdland closes, another one opens.
Have you got a favorite country as far as audiences go?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I like Scandinavia very well. Paris is wonderful. Either they like you dramatically or they dislike you dramatically. It's never any in between in Paris. You always know where you are.
Where would you say the hippest audiences were?
The hippest audience in New York. New York is always the hippest. New York is so hip they named it twice. New York, New York. They're the hippest in everything, I think.
What do you do when you're not playing the trumpet?
I shoot pool and I play chess. I swim. And I'm in the midst of now, I have a publisher that's going to, I think, publish my autobiography. I think it's going to be out when I get 50 years old.
What was the raised eyebrows meaning at the end of that 50 years old?
Well, I'll soon be 50. And I'll give you a preview. The title of the book is going to be To Be or Not to Bop. You like that?
And when will the book be out?
Huh? When I get 50.
Well, how many years will it take you to get 50?
Well, count from 1917.
2 years. I'm pretty good at arithmetic.
Yes, of course, I see that.
How long have you been playing the trumpet?
30-something years. I started when I was 12.
Do you still practice every day?
No! I'm saving the chops. Only when I have something new that I want to do. Something that has been bugging me that I can't do right off like that. I have to practice it.
When did you stop your daily practice?
Daily practice? Oh, maybe 10 years, I guess.
10 years ago?
Yes, probably.
You say you shoot pool when you're not playing.
I have a pool room at my house. It's got a new house, so we have a pool table. I've been practicing, so that when I give up music, maybe I can make some money as a pool hustler.
Have you ever met Minnesota Fats yet?
I know Jackie Gleason very well.
If you hadn't taken up the trumpet, what other musical instrument would you have liked to play?
Well, I started on the trombone, but I think I would like to play drums. I understand drums very well. All rhythm, any rhythm instrument.
If you hadn't been a musician, what would you have been?
Well, I took agriculture in high school. Probably be a farmer.
Would you have liked to have been a farmer?
Yes, I think I might go into that later. I understand quite a bit about farming. Yes.
I mean, you, all the time you've been a musician, have you had this yen to be a farmer out there driving tractors?
No, not that kind of farmer. I like to tell somebody what to do. And I also like to be a writer. I would love to be a writer. You can express many things with words.
Well, this book that you come out, is that being ghosted, or have you written it yourself, or what?
Well, it will. As a matter of fact, I just spoke to a fellow who's going to be he's going to edit the book for me, but some things can't be put into print. He will help me.
Have you ever done any other writing about it?
No. I wrote an article once, Jazz is Too Good for Americans. You see that? In Esquire magazine?
Oh, yeah.
I wrote that. Created quite a scene, too.
What has been the biggest influence on you as a jazzman? Or who has been? What or who?
Well, I've been influenced by many. Oh, I was influenced by Art Tatum because Roy Eldridge, Art Tatum, Charlie Parker, Benny Carter.
But can you look at one and say who was your biggest?
Well, when I first started, Roy Eldridge was my biggest inspiration.
In which way did he influence you?
Well, I just liked what he was doing, and I used to try to do it, but
How important has technique been to you in playing the trumpet?
Well, rhythm is my business. I I guess rhythm and harmony. I guess that's the whole thing of jazz. But because I play piano, I transpose from the trumpet. Boy, you asked a lot of nice questions. Well, technique is an important part, because I think that you should be able to play what you think, so that's where the technique comes in. As you think it, you're supposed to be able to play it right away. So if you don't have the technique to do it, you're lost.
Where would you put technique in your list? If you listed 3 necessities for a trumpet player, where would technique come? After creativity, before creativity?
Well, creativity is no good if you don't have the technique to produce it.
Conversely, technique is no good if you have no creativity.
That's right, of course. Of course, one is no good without the other. But you can be a creator. You can be a creator without technique, but you won't be able to do it. You can tell somebody else how to do it, maybe. But creativity is the essence of the whole music.
Okay, let's go back to creativity. How many tunes have you written?
Have I written? Oh, maybe 100, 150, maybe.
Do you remember the first tune you wrote?
Now, one of my earlier tunes was "Picking the Cabbage" with Cab Calloway.
Mm-hmm.
Picking cabbage. Another tune that I wrote was called. Well, it came out as. Well, a guy stole it. A trumpet player stole it. I was with Teddy Hill's band. It's in 1937, and I wrote a tune. I don't know what I named it, but it came out with Count Basie's band with Leslie Young, or it was, I know, da 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 da. I don't remember the name of it, but what Count Basie called it. I don't even remember what name. I probably didn't even have a name on it, and didn't have it copywritten, but they did send me royalties on it.
Every composer, no matter how many hundreds of tunes he writes, always has one particular favorite. Do you have one?
Not necessarily. I think Con Alma fills that pretty well.
Which one?
Con Alma.
How do you feel about the increasing merging of jazz with classical music?
Well, that's... let me see. It won't merge, because there are so many nuances in jazz that the classical music will never get into. There's so many things that the jazz musician play that you can't write, and in classical music you must write it for those guys to play it.
Yeah, but I find that all new steps in jazz, all new innovations seem to be tending towards the classical, and a lot more jazz is written. I find now that...
well, they better get hip and don't get too far away, because if they get too far away from the roots, it won't be jazz.
I was going to ask you this: if this carries on, this merging, won't jazz just lose its personality?
Yeah, it will if they keep doing that. But the truly gifted jazz musician really knows where it comes from, and he hangs on to that. It's like you hang on to your family. You can't completely break away from that.
What can you see for jazz in the future?
I'd like to make some concerts, do a tour of concerts with symphony orchestras into the jazz rhythm. Write the music write what they're supposed to play, and let us have written music and improvise what we can do. It can go together. I just did a concert with the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, and it came out very well. But there was nothing too jazzy for them to play, because we did it. We did what it was supposed to be jazzy, but they were good background for us.
All that this means really is that you're having a magnificent 50-string background, a full symphonic orchestra background, while you improvise.
Background, yes, of course, yes. They're good for background.
And that's good for the ego too, is it not?
It's marvelous. And I had on tails.
You say your new book is going to be To Be or Not to Be Bop, or To Bop.
To be or not to bop, yes.
To be or not to bop. Your name has been always linked as one of the originators of bop back in, what was that, 1941? Yes. What really happened there?
It wasn't that new, really. You know, the music, because there hasn't been too much new in music harmonically, but it's just the way, the accents, it's just in the interpretation of the music, which makes for a new approach. It was just a new approach to the same old music, because I've never turned my back on from my heritage, from the sanctified and church and things like that. I always held on to that. So it wasn't really it was a revolution in approach.
Why do you think it happened?
It was a need for a new approach to the music, because the music was really getting into a rut. Everybody sounded like Count Basie, or nobody could sound like Duke Ellington. It's a good thing. Ellington told me one time, he said, "You know the mistake you made?" I said, "What's that? What was this?" He said, "You shouldn't have called it bebop." I said, "Well, I didn't." He said, "You shouldn't have let them call it bebop. You should have called it Gillespiana." Just a good idea. He's never dated. You know, Duke Ellington has never dated, because it's Ellingtonia. So I thought about it, and it was too late.
I'm watching you take your trumpet out the case. How did you come by this peculiar horn with the bell pointing up?
It got broke this way when some guy knocked it over, fell over it, and bent the bell up, and I liked the way the sound it comes from. It was a different sound.
How many trumpets do you go through in the course of it?
I need another one right now, I tell you the truth. But my company went out of business, and I got to get someone to make me. A new one.